Starting to the bottom right of the map with a perfect record in Heart of the Swarm against Zerg so far. It is
MVP Super.
3 times did he have to face a Zerg player in Heart of the Swarm offline. He had to play against Curious, Lenog and Lucky against all 3 of them in the GSL, and he didn't drop a single map. This time he's up against the Casper Zerg player. Starting to the bottom left of the map, we have
CJ Entus Effort.
And when Effort was facing Curious earlier, we talked about his CVZ. In the end, it was Curious who won the game, but if you look at Effort's history, then the mirror matchup is where he really shines. Not so today, but if you look at his matchup against Protoss, it's roughly a 50% win ratio that he has. Of course, facing a lot of really strong Protoss players, especially in Pro League, but he also faced a few in Code A, where he was defeated by Trap. That's how he ended up in the up and downs in the first place.
Right.
So this is one of those matchups where Super is very strong and Effort traditionally not the best. Let's see what, especially on a map like Atlas, is going to happen, because this is a map where, especially for a Protoss player, there are a lot of opportunities where you can fight in really good positions against Zerg.
Yeah, there's some really nice choke points you can use. The third base here is going to be, you know, much easier for Effort to take than had their positions be reversed, because now he can expand away from Super. He can put his third base, you know, to the north of his hatchery rather than putting it to the bottom. He could also still go for the 6 o'clock. It's a little bit closer, and that's one of the reasons why I like this map. There's so many different choices of bases. For example, Super might want to take the third base that's a little bit farther away to be closer to his opponent so he can attack and defend easier, but he doesn't have to do that either.
We have a wrong scout, not a wrong scout, but an unfortunate scout with the first overlord to the top left for Effort, so he sees his opponent a little bit later. And right now he doesn't really know what's happening. He doesn't have a probe in his direct vicinity, so he doesn't really know, okay, what kind of opening did you use. Usually a Protoss player skips a little bit on the early probe scout if he goes into a gateway opening. But we had Super start with actually with the Nexus first. And Effort seems to head straight into a very early third base, which is going to work quite well for him because of the opening that Super chose here.
Yeah, he takes a little bit of a gamble here with the new meta shift with the gateway expands. But
exactly. If that's the gateway expand, he has a problem.
Yeah, for sure. Probe not spotted until the last second here, and he will be able to check for the third, but since he doesn't know where his opponent is spawned, he has to check the natural first, actually. Now he'll turn it around and go check the third.
The thing about this map is that I feel for... In Zerg versus Protoss, I feel that for the Protoss players, it's really cool that he has so many positions where he can attack. Then you have matchups like Terran versus Protoss, where in general the Terran player seems to be the one that is trying to use the several access points to the natural and the third base to run in, snipe a base and retreat to go for these hit and run attacks, and also for a lot of drop play. So in the Terran versus Protoss, I would say that Terran players are a bit favored against TOS. But right now in this matchup, it all depends on what exactly Super wants to do. Pushes on 2 bases can be very strong here if you come in from the right angle.
Yeah, definitely so. It's all about, on this map, how fast your opponent has to react to how you're moving, because if you don't know your opponent is coming, then it's hard to get your units positioned in the right place. But if you do know, you have all the time in the world, of course, to get your roaches ready, make them in the right place, make sure they're in a place where they're less likely to be force fielded. And we have a fast robotics here for Super, no Stargate, so I wonder if he will do an Immortal Push. We don't see that too often in Heart of the Swarm, but it could be something he does. The thing is, he shows it to the Overlord, which is the most mysterious thing to me. He saw the Overlord was there, and he just made it right next to it.
Yeah, really just signaling to him, okay, listen buddy, you better get a few anti-air units to deal with this. And this is now a position where Effort is all the time in the world. And, you know, he's in a position where he knows what's going on, but he doesn't... Oh...
What? I'm sorry?
I just misread something on the production tab. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
Okay. So, robot... Yeah,
Robo's finished.
It's a robo. Not, for a second I actually thought he dropped the Stargate. I don't know why that happened, but of course he doesn't need anti-air now with that. But
he could have. It's a warp prism.
Yeah. The fact remains, he currently knows what's going on, and that gives him a lot of safety. It's always so annoying when you don't know what's happening, then you have to kind of go for a catch-all defense. But now we are having the first Immortal being built right now. And this is what I was talking about earlier. Those timings on a map like this are so strong.
Yeah. He makes Observer first, and he's going to actually use that with his Mothership Core to deny creep. And this is actually going to maybe trick effort into thinking that he's doing an expand, because as soon as he loses his tumor, he's going to know there's an observer. And then he's going to think, oh, okay, you didn't go for the fast immortal.
Yeah, right now it looks more and more like we are going to see that push where you go into the Colossi, where you have the two immortals, and that is such a difficult push to hold, especially when you're on a map like this. So, Super, I feel like he's in a really good position. Effort, it all depends on what exactly he's going to do once that he has his lair done. Does he scout what's going on? He needs an overseer, he needs to send in his opponent's main base and find out what he's up against.
And you know, with this creep tumor denial, he's actually, if he gets this last tumor, the queen's there, he can't do it, but if he had gotten that last tumor, that would be so much area where he has units off creep, where a Super can maneuver very well against this. He's going into 7 gateways, he's doing the exact push you described.
It's so strong. This is one of those pushes where a lot of Zerg players were struggling again for a long time. Then Protoss players even mixing it up a lot. Here comes an Overseer now. He has one in his opponent's main base at the bottom right, scouting what is going on here. He knows what's coming. He knows what's up. He sees the Immortals.
Yeah, he sees those, and you know, he even sees the Bay and all the gateways. So knowing that this isn't going to help you, isn't going to defend it for you, even though he knows he has to make some tough choices. Obviously getting Corruptors right now is out of the question. It's going to take too long. He has to rely on the flanks, he has to rely on positioning here.
It's the only thing that he can do, flanks and run-bys. Whatever attack he tries to push out now will be too late to actually stop this. It will help him a bit later down the road, but for now he really has to rely on flanks and try and make this happen. The macro hatch is really important for him so that he can rely on his queens as well if he needs to pull them, and he will still have a lot of lava available. Also, of course, with the additional injects, he can always go into a more lava-heavy style if he suddenly realizes that Lings are the weapon of choice. Going into the Spire right now, but the Spire is going to be for a potential second wave, or maybe even, depending on how it goes right now, for a Muralist transition later on. Yeah. For this defense against the first push, it's not going to help him.
You're right. Overseer here drops a Changeling so you can see where the rest of the Protoss army is. He's going for a big flank here. He wants to trap him. He goes for the counterattack instead. There's no cannons really set up here. He's only got the one, and no tight wall. He does not have a tight wall. He has to recall here. Only half of his units get recalled, though.
Yeah, a lot of the sentries, you can see it on the minimap, are just being taken down now. There has a lot of force fields that he dropped, but the sentries are gone, and that's amazing now for effort. That is great for him.
Now he can actually...
Sorry, we don't see that map. Sorry for interrupting you here, but I think some of the sentries still trying to escape here, but they're being chased down now. Here we have now the rest of the units. Okay, he lost all of the sentries, and he also lost a few remaining zealots.
And he very well may lose the game of it, because now Effort has the ability, he has enough time, that bought him just enough time to be able to make Corruptors. He's making Spine Crawlers at home, and going into Corruptors here, he has the gas in just a few seconds to make a big wave of those. I think that's his best option here, and he's in a solid position now. It's no longer, oh, this is going to be a really tough push. It's, okay, now I should be able to hold this. Now what do I do after that?
With all those sentries gone, it's really a big problem for him. Force fields are going to be tough, and here comes the rest of the Roaches. This is such a huge surface area that he has to defend here. One of the Colossi is down, the second one might die as well. Goes down, and this is not looking good for Super at all. That push was completely shut down by Effort.
Yeah, he has the Immortals here to clean up the Roaches, but there's so much production with the macro hatchery, and he had to warp with more sentries. That's a lot of gas. That means less Stalkers.
And the +1 attack upgrade, let's not forget about it. It's gonna finish very soon. There are also a few Spine Crawlers now at the front. This is very difficult to engage. The Immortals give him a little bit of wiggle room, but there are only 2 of them.
There are only 2. Time Warp here slows the Roaches, but now they've closed that gap. Targets down the Immortals.
First one is gone, the second one can't escape, also dies. A few Roaches from behind trying to take down at least a few of the Stalkers, and now Super is completely surrounded. He's doing his best. He might even push this back, but pushing into his opponent's natural or third, I don't see that happening.
It's not going to happen. More Stalkers falling here. Zealot's getting trapped behind. He just trades where he can when the Roach numbers get low. He backs to the spines, waits for the rest of the spawning Roaches. He's got such a great production, such a great economy here. Doesn't even need the Corruptors with that flank he got earlier.
Zergling's coming in now. He has the lava with the macro hatch that we mentioned several times, and here comes the inevitable GG.
And you know,
played.
Killing those sentries means, you know, he could have made the Corruptors because he forced the recall and he had the time, but he just like, well, since you have no sentries, I don't even need Corruptors, I'm just going to flank your Colossi. And he sent a huge Roach force to the back. And that's all she wrote.
Yeah, Super looking a bit overwhelmed here after this loss. And you know, the build itself was actually a really strong one. The one problem that he really had was there was not a single sentry left behind to make sure that there was not a breach. And to me, this is weird. Every single time we've seen a push on this map from a Protoss player on 2 bases, what happened was that the Zerg sent out units for a counterattack. I don't think we've seen like maybe one defense where the Zerg was trying to hold this straight up, but every time else that we watched it, there was a counterattack, just trying to push through, and most Protoss players dropping additional cannons, having sentries at home, defending against it. Super looked at it, was like, I don't need that. Turns out he did, and the recall broke his neck.
The recall was he didn't set it up. He was panic recall. If he had gotten all of his units together, I think many less would have been left behind. Obviously, I think his army was too big to recall everything, but if he had put them more, into a centered ball around that mothership core, I think he would have gotten out with almost everything. He left so much behind.
Especially the sentries.
Yeah.
If it's only a few zealots, then you're like, okay, well, not ideal, but I only lost
Cut my losses.
There. Exactly, didn't lose gas, and now he has to warp in additional sentries. He's losing the gas because of it. That's tech that you want to have. It's also, they don't have as much energy as those sentries in the middle of the map had, so you can't use the force fields anymore. Huge problem here for Super, and that recall, that forced recall, that really killed him. So Effort with a great decision making here, and is able to take this game and saves his chances in this group. The only one who lost both of those games so far is Björn. Everyone else at least has one win.
Yeah. So this means our group is relatively close. It's closer than some of our other groups. Nobody's leading the pack.
Well, Paralyzed with the 2-0.
Well, Paralyzed actually is leading the pack with the 2-0, but there's a lot more wiggle room in between. There's nobody who, except for Björn, is in a position where they're looking like they're in rough shape. Yeah,
Björn, he has to hope for tiebreakers. That's what he has to hope for.
And everybody still has a chance right now, as it is.
Yeah. And with the games that we had so far, it also means that if Paralyzed now takes his 3rd win, he will also advance to Kodes. Not a situation that we have all the time. We've seen this several times now that a player is 3-0 and is still not guaranteed a seat in, the next season, which is then not Kodes, but the OSL, but WCS Korea Premier League. But for Paralyzed, with the current games that we have, the next win would guarantee him a spot there.
Yeah. That's exactly true. We actually had this yesterday with Jangbi with the 3-0 going into the OSL. So it does happen from time to time. It all depends on who who loses.
Yeah, it's actually only true if Paralyze wins again. Actually plays against Effort his next game. My match ranking here got my build order got a little bit messed up. So I'm not quite sure if he really plays Effort. But if that's his next game, then it's going to determine if he advances or not.
Yep. Here's the standings. We talked about it already. Paralyzed at the top of the group with 2-0, and Effort down there with Björn.
Yeah, and talking about Björn has to face Curious next. And him playing against Curious also means that if he doesn't take the game, then he will be out. Yep, he will be 0-3 and he cannot advance anymore.
This is not going to be an easy match. Curious is such a great player. He's really come into his own over the past year in Wings of Liberty and in Heart of the Swarm. And, he's really always been kind of that cold-blooded killer everybody knows and loves, but he's looking on fire right now, and he could find himself in the OSL next season.
Yeah, the only thing that really works for Björn is that he finally plays a different matchup against Protoss player. Let's be quite frank here. He sucks against Protoss these days. And against Zerg, it's a bit of a different story, so here he has to prove that in different matchups he will be able to break through. He needs wins now. He needs one against Curious, he needs another one later on, and if he loses another map today, it's all over.
By the way, I want to mention again, buy tickets for the WCS Season 1 Finals, Grand Finals, of course, for Global. Coming up this weekend, it's going to be, of course, starting tomorrow. Callor and I will be commentating, so will Nick and Dan of Tastes and Artosis on the stream. So make sure you buy a ticket for that. Watch it in high quality. If you're in Seoul or you're going to be in Seoul, you're about to get on a plane, you're watching this in the airport right now, when you get to Korea, come down to Samsung, get out of Exit 1, come to the studio, watch. We'll have English commentary broadcast throughout the entire studio. Yeah,
we will have a lot of dual cast. There's also a lot of solo casting going on. Actually, the two of us were scheduled to solo cast each one stream on Saturday and decided that we will... we don't care about the budget, we'll actually just dual cast both of the things together.
Right.
That's something that we also did back in the days in the Mukdung studio, trying to make your experience with the broadcast a little bit better, and it's going to be pretty exciting as well.
Yeah, we'll be there the whole day, and we're going to be bringing you guys coverage. Follow us on Twitter. I'm at Proxwolf, he's at Callor. We listen coverage of everything going on.
Yeah, and talking about coverage, while we have a bit of downtime here, the Code A qualifier is coming up on the 26th again, which is in 20 days, and we once again got permission to broadcast broadcast it, so there will be a stream that you guys can check out. I think there was I actually posted it on Reddit earlier. I think people voted that up, so it should be on the first page. Additional information will be released as soon as we have them. Once again, the stream will be on Twitch, and you can, as Wolf mentioned, follow our Twitters if you want to get additional information. That's where we will post as soon as we know at what time it's going to happen, who's going to participate. Stream links will be posted there as well, so follow us at ProxyWolf and at Caldo if you're interested to watch the qualifier.
Yeah, there's going to be, I'm going to be tweeting so many pictures, probably going to make another hand speed compilation video. You're going to have a lot of first-person VODs. That's what we do. We love to bring you guys all the coverage.
Yeah, from the last qualifier, I had like 40 VODs up on my YouTube channel. You can check that out, youtube.com/KALDO.TV. And there is a lot of things, like especially players that we've seen in the Challenger League and also in the Premier League, showing you the hands of them, showing how fast they are on keyboards and with the mouse, and that's something that we also plan now for the upcoming qualifier. So there will be a lot of content coming your way. Speaking about content, we have the next map ready. This time it's going to be, as mentioned, Byan against Curious. Daybreak is going to be the map. And, well, Byan has to fight for his life right now. He has to show us that this is a matchup where he's a little bit better than his matchup against Protoss.
This is his last life. It's all down to this for Byan. If he loses, it's all over here at the GSL Up and Downs. Calder 4.